I've lost a lot of data over the years.
What? Battery bank's fine, or UPS turned off the server.
And after finishing a huge project this past month, I came into work to a surprise from my NAS.
It's happening again. It's happening again. I think it's this one. I think it's that one on the end.
Oh boy, here we go again. I've made videos in the past on network storage options, file management, compressing your archives, and many similar subjects, but I've failed to live up to my own words. I don't actually have an offsite backup. Sure, I've got some scripts and photos backed up to some cloud somewhere, but not a good, real, trustworthy backup of my most precious data. Today, let's talk about fixing that and how to actually determine what data is worth investing in an offsite backup. This video is sponsored by Synology. They did send out the NAS and a couple hard drives for me to test. I will be buying my own additional hard drives and possibly SSDs for expansion and things like that for it later, but just wanted to shout, they did provide this for this video. They've been a pretty long time partner of the channel at this point. We've been working together for 8 or 9 years. Really like working with these people. March 31st is World Backup Day, and it's a day all about spreading the word about proper backup procedures and ideas. Pair your spring cleaning with springtime backups. Hold on, what do you mean what is worth investing in an offsite backup? Am I not backing up everything? This is my entire career in the server rack. How could I not back everything up? Well, while my default behavior is to hoard every digital scrap I create, rarely do I end up ever needing or wanting most of it again. Random images for video projects and even the talking head A-roll segments of my videos, I tend to just delete now, as that drastically saves on archive storage space. Even for this video, the talking head portion here that you only see cut in between B-roll takes up like a few hundred gigabytes. But even then, I don't need to back all of this up either. Let's be real, I have something like 300 terabytes of active storage in my studio. A realistic offsite backup of everything would mean spending hundreds of, probably a couple $1,000s per month with Amazon Glacier or a similar service, or spending tens of thousands of dollars on extra servers. And then where would I even keep them? I'd need a ton of power, cooling, and they'd be loud. Instead, I need to prioritize, something I'm really not good at. But if I was robbed, had my house burned down, or flooded, what would I want to make absolute certain survived digitally? For me, that'd be my writing, my photos, my family videos, and then whatever I could of my recent or favorite video uploads. My 200 plus terabytes of archived B-roll just isn't crucial. My Jellyfin library wouldn't even come up. Linux ISOs, forget about it. So let's focus on that. Now, why are we even going off-site or out of the same location to begin with? First of all, we need to follow the 3-2-1 backup rule. As I explain more in this video here, the gist of it is that you need to have at least 3 copies of your data on 2 different storage media, and at least 1 copy is off-site or not in the same place as your primary copies. If you have your backups on the same drive as your original copy, you're not backed up. If your backup is in your house, just in a different room than your computer, a disaster will still take both copies out. You want a backup that's isolated from every realistic data loss scenario that would happen to the other copy at the same time. Now it's time to suck up to my parents. I want to keep my offsite backup at their house, but I don't want to have to bring whatever form the backup might take home to update it and drive it back to them every time I need to change it, so it needs to be connected. But I can't intrude on their home very much, so it needs to be small. That's where this comes into play. Synology sent over their DiskStation DS923 Plus, the more modern version of what I started this whole network storage journey with nearly 10 years ago. This is a NAS, a network-attached storage system. It's basically a mini PC with dual-core AMD Ryzen CPU, 4 gigabytes of RAM upgradable to 32 gigabytes, 4 hard drive bays, 2 NVMe M.2 slots, gigabit networking plus room for upgrades, and faster networking or an expansion bay for more hard drive slots. This thing is a beast. Plus, it's tiny, way smaller than even my previous one, and stays very quiet, if not silent. I've been rocking a multitude of Synology NAS here in my studio alongside my Unraid server for years now, and I do most of my editing from them. To initially get this set up, I put the 2 hard drives in the drive bays, connected all the ports, and turned it on. This initiates a kind of Synology DiskStation installer process. I connect to it through the URL that the manual provides in my web browser, find.synology.com, I believe, and then it will just find it on my network. And you can see that it lists all the NASs that I have, but then I can just choose the one I haven't set up yet. I'll need to download the latest version of Synology DSM, or Disk Station Manager. That's basically the operating system that runs on the server, and it will go ahead and install it and install the required packages and then get everything set up and be ready for me to start configuring. From there, I can configure something very important, the storage array. Currently, I only have 2 hard drives in here. My goal is to eventually upgrade it to all 4. I have 2 16 terabyte Synology drives in here. I want redundancy because even though this is a backup, I want my backup to be safe just in case one of the drives dies. When you have this running 24/7, even if the data isn't being accessed, the hard drives are built for that, but as you saw at the start of the video, eventually they can die. So I currently have this set up with the Synology Hybrid RAID, which is the default here. And this allows me 1 drive failure, which out of a 4 drive array is totally fine. So I only have 16 terabytes of storage right now, only. But as I upgrade more drives in here, I will have more available to me. And due to the way the Hybrid RAID system is configured, I will be able to just slot in additional disks and add them to my storage volume to expand it and build on it later, which is great. While you're setting up DSM, you will want to consider other things like whether you want to be able to connect to it from outside your home, such as for putting it at your parents' house to store your data on remotely and things like that. And thankfully, I feel like this has really improved since I first started using Synology NAS systems. The DSM installer really handles all of this for you. You tell it if you want outside access, you come up with a little URL for it. Obviously, I came up with a test one. You don't want to show this to people, so I will be changing this out in time. And then it gives you basically a URL that you'll be able to use to connect to it from any internet connection as well. And you just go through all the options and it makes it super simple to get set up and ready to go. The only thing you will need to do manually here after you've gone through the installer is on the server that is your offsite backup, if you have multiple here. Because what I'm doing is I'm backing up my primary Synology NAS that has my writing on it, my photos, things like that, to another NAS. And I'm doing it from multiple Synology NAS. On the box that acts as the backup here, you need to install the Hyper Backup Vault application from the Synology App Store. Only takes a couple clicks, super easy to do. And then over on the NASs that I'm backing up from, I can install or use the Hyper Backup application. And then from there, I can choose my server from the list and set up additional tasks to back up specific folders. So I have a task that backs up from one of my shares, my writing and my photos folder. I can go on another NAS and set up a task to back up, say, a B-roll archive or specific folders from there. What it's going to do then is allow you to set up a schedule. So I have it set every couple days throughout the week, and then over the weekend, it'll do a file check to make sure everything is okay. And I just have it set to run at like 2 a.m. so it doesn't bother them, use up their internet connection while they're doing anything. And it will just back up the files from my folders I specified, which currently is about 1.5 terabytes of storage. Not too bad. It will back up everything that needs backed up, and it will keep an active archive with version history on the server so that anytime something changes, you can actually go back and restore that up to a certain point. Now, it does have a configuration so that you can set it to automatically start deleting them once you have enough copies and you're starting to run out of space, but this makes it super easy to get everything backed up from my different boxes. And then you could also use there's the Synology Photos app. They have a Office suite if you like. They even have business backup program that you could run on your computer to back up your computer files to your Synology NAS as well. All of this is as simple as it gets. Either it was handled during the installation when you installed the operating system in the first place, which, like I said, miles better than when I first started with Synology, which is great. Everything was super easy to get configured without me touching anything. And the only other manual steps were installing specific applications from their little app store or just setting up the tasks myself. So I already set up the task, had it back up. It took a good couple hours to back up my 1.5 terabytes real quick here. Now I gotta give my parents a phone call and see if I can move it over to their place. The only change I will need to make in my task settings once I move the NAS from my house to theirs is I will need to change what server it tries to access, because when I set it up, it was accessing it through the local mount. I will need to use my little quick connect URL that it gives me as the target server in the Hyper Backup settings. Obviously, doing a ton of deep data backups over the internet could take a really long time, so you want to do your scheduling appropriately depending on everyone's connection quality and things like that. But it has never been easier than ever to back up your data and to keep it off-site, especially with something like the Synology DS923 Plus. And I know we're talking about an NAS here, but I mean, burn some Blu-rays. I made a video on that. Burn some Blu-rays as backups. Get a external SSD, probably not a hard drive. Those could get beat up in your storage pretty easily. But get a USB SSD or something. Dump your photos on that. Store that in a fireproof lockbox or at someone else's house in a lockbox or something like that. Do something that gets your data in a physical form that you can back up somewhere. Please, you will thank me later. I've been seeing way too many people come to me and be like, my hard drive just crashed. I got everything on it. What can I do? And without paying thousands of dollars for expensive data recovery services, and even then that's not a guarantee, the answer is often nothing. And I'd hate to see that happen to any of you. Thanks to Synology for providing the NAS and a couple hard drives for this video. Like I said, I have like 4 or 5 of their servers at this point, plus my own Unraid server that I use for editing off of, keeping my footage on, archives, my writing, my photos, all of that. It's been a crucial part of my infrastructure here as a full-time YouTuber, artist, content creator, writer, whatever. Go check out links to everything in the description below as always, and remember to be kind, rewind. Full playlist of all of my data, backup, and network storage adventures are here, or in the end card, whatever, if you're interested in that.